Welcome y'all, Wes DIY Food Plot Pro. Thanks for joining us. We are out in the newly planted alfalfa patch. You can see that we've got a good stand. We're getting some growth beginning to take off. If you've watched any of my videos, you know how crucial lime is on an alfalfa plot. As with most food plots, they perform best at 6.5 to 7. So today we're going to talk about some of the liquid products that are being sold to increase your soil pH, whether they work, how they work, if they do. So there's many products on today's market that are targeted for food plotters. They claim to work instantly. A lot of them are super fast. They claim 1 gallon or 2.5 gallon jug will equal 2,000 pounds of agricultural lime. They're targeting our food plotters because as food plotters, we don't have a ton of time on our hands. We typically don't have the equipment to spread agricultural lime, and it's a pain in the butt if we do. It's heavy, it's a large quantity, and it's not something that a lot of us enjoy doing. Pretty nasty, dirty, dusty. So they're targeting something that we're all looking for anyway. So that kind of makes us an easy target, right? So if we're constantly looking for something, and somebody gives you a product that they claim works, well then we're going to jump all over it and we're going to pay high dollar for that product. But the question is, do those products actually raise the soil pH? The soil pH is measured by the amount of hydrogen ions in the soil. That is what determines how acidic your soil is. The higher number of hydrogen ions, the lower your pH. The less number, the higher your pH. So what we're trying to do when we are increasing the soil's pH is we're trying to lower the hydrogen ion numbers in our soil, therefore raising the soil pH. To do that, the way that most of us have always been taught is to add lime. When we're thinking lime, we're instantly thinking calcium, right? That's calcium. So this is another big ticket that a lot of folks are falling for. Calcium has nothing to do with raising your soil pH. Let me say that again for the folks in the back. Calcium has nothing to do with raising your soil pH. That's a marketing strategy. It has nothing at all to do with lowering the amount of hydrogen ions in your soil. When you see these companies that are saying, oh, this has got, 5 times the amount of calcium you need per year, you might have been like me and gone out on your food plots and took a soil sample, and you look at your calcium, and your calcium might be 3,500 pounds per acre, but your soil pH still be 5.1 to 5.2. Well, how in the world does that happen? It's because those aren't directly correlated with one another. We all think of calcium as what raises the soil pH, but in all reality, calcium has nothing to do with that process. If you don't believe me, it's a simple Google search of, does calcium raise the soil pH? And the answer that you're quickly going to find is no, it has nothing to do with it. So what does raise our soil pH? A carbonate is what raises our soil pH, but calcium carbonate is lime. You need the calcium, but most of our soils have plenty of calcium here in Kentucky, but the carbonate is what's raising the soil pH. So it hooks on to that H and it makes H2O, dropping one hydrogen ion out and reducing the acidity, raising the pH of the soil. That reaction has to go on multiple times through the field, but it eventually ends up raising the soil pH to our desired levels. Carbonate is what we're looking for. That is something that neutralizes the hydrogen in the soil, turns it to water, and therefore raises the soil pH. Has nothing to do with calcium. Absolutely nothing to do with calcium whatsoever, other than the lime is calcium carbonate. Okay, so if you could just put the carbonate on and not put the calcium on, you get the exact same thing. You would still get the increase in soil pH. We've been targeted a lot by companies that are claiming that they're raising the soil pH. The issue that we have is this is really difficult to tell if the product is working or not. Folks say, well, my soil pH was 5.3 when I started this product and now it's 5.9, so it's working clearly. I tried to prove this. I knew this all along, but I tried to prove this. The issue is soil pH changes a ton throughout the field. So I had a 1/4 acre plot and I split it into 4 different sections. Well, I took the soil pHs at one time and I came back just in that one section of a 1/4 acre, literally a 1/4 acre, the same type of soil, basically on the crown of a hill all the way across that crown. I was anywhere from 5.1 to 6.3. So extremely acidic to pretty neutral, all on that one piece of ground. So I come back a month later and I take it again, and I'm basically trying to take them in the same spots, roughly. You know, I'm staying in my rows, and I take them again. Well, I've got wild increases, I've got wild decreases, and that's the issue with this, is it's very difficult to actually physically see this on your soil test, whether this is legitimately working or not. If I was to come out here and spray a product on this field, I took a soil sample from the beginning, it was 5.3. I sprayed a product on this field that claimed that I was raising the soil pH of 1 point. I took another sample a month later, I would likely have a different reading, maybe higher, maybe lower, maybe the same, but likely it's going to be a different reading from what I had, just because the soil pH changes throughout the field so much. So it's something that's really, really difficult for us to prove that the product is not doing what they claim it's doing. I've seen a lot of times where they claim, 1 gallon or 2.5 gallons equal to 2,000 pounds of agricultural lime. The one thing that I find very interesting is when I bought a couple of these bottles, nowhere on that bottle does it say that. That is kind of in the back door, what people are saying, but nowhere on either one of those bottles does it say this is equivalent to 2,000 pounds of agricultural lime. Guys, if it was, would there be any agricultural lime in the world being spread on any field if we could just dump a 2.5 gallon jug in a sprayer and spray it out? Would there be any? No, of course there wouldn't. This is absolutely not true. Guarantee you without a shadow of a doubt, 2.5 gallon jug or 1 gallon jug does not equal 2,000 pounds of agricultural lime. There is no way in the world that makes sense. We just think about that clearly, there's no way it makes sense. You can look at the purity from the lime that you're getting. If they're having to mix it into a liquid so that you can spray it, they're having to dilute that with water, right? Because calcium carbonate does not come in a liquid form. At least some of that is water. So there is no way that 1 gallon, 12 to 15 gallon jug is going to equal 2,000 pounds of agricultural lime. Just no way, guys. So what do we watch out for? Calcium chloride. That is the big one that's being pushed on food plotters. Calcium chloride. That is a salt. That has nothing to do with changing the soil pH. Don't take my word for it. Look it online if you want to. Simply put in, does calcium chloride raise the soil pH? You're going to get your answer pretty quick. It's an absolute negative. It's a salt. It has nothing to do with raising the soil pH. Those hydrogen ions are not getting replaced. There's no way that calcium chloride can hook on to that hydrogen ion and convert it. So no, it does not work. Now, here's where this even gets more screwy. They claim that, it doesn't really change the soil pH. What it does is it moves it down. Well, here we go again. We can't that's something that's extremely difficult for me to try to disprove. There's no way that I can prove that. All I can tell you is if you want to legitimately change your soil, 100% legitimately change your soil, you have got to use something that neutralizes the hydrogen ions in the soil, which is a carbonate, lime. Lime is going to neutralize those hydrogen ions. That process does take time. It's not something that's going to change just like that, but that is 1,000% going to raise your soil pH. So I know as food plotters, we're all looking for things that make our lives easier, and I know that lime does not make our lives easier. Totally understand that. I get it. It's a pain in the butt. I lime a ton here. Our soil pH is 5.3. Can you raise certain food plots with a lower pH? Absolutely. Yes, you can. And sometimes you're not even going to know it. But over time, as that pH begins to work down, lower and lower and lower, you are going to start seeing less quality food plots. You're going to start seeing deficiencies show up in your food plots. You're going to have more trouble with your food plots. That is all directly related to the soil's pH. My recommendation to you guys is, if you are wanting to change your soil's pH, then do it the way that is 100% certain going to change your soil pH and is going to do it for 3 or 4 years. Get it done, get it on, and then you won't have to mess with it for 3 years. 3 years time, your pH starts working back down, get your lime out there, get it on there again, 3 more years, you're good to go. Thank you guys for watching. I really appreciate it. Smash that like and subscribe button if you hadn't already.